Welcome to another live stream, Legends. Well, guys, what an exciting day we have. Best friends Trump and Musk are at each other's throats, exposing secrets, canceling government contracts over personal squabbles. In my opinion, this just goes to show they're kind of exposing themselves for inside trading slash money making schemes, playing personal favorites, clearly putting their own self interests and emotions well ahead of those that they represent. So with that, let's jump right into some Bitcoin charts because guys, the markets apparently do not like this two-sided hissy fit that we're seeing. So guys, understand that yes, I see that the market is reacting to what is happening right now across social media. Quite the situation we got there. You guys know I'm not really a fundamental guy or even all that much of a political guy. But I was warning that we had this swing fail set up. So whether or not you want to say that it's because of this fight that's going on or because it's the charts, guys, in my opinion, the charts had this printed that a pullback was very much just realistic to expect. It wasn't saying that, we have to absolutely nuke to the downside, but we had, like I was saying, when we get into
Oh
these
man,
resistance levels, way more interested in being a seller, shorting or selling rather than being a buyer or FOMO long into resistance, right? Because if this is just a typical Stuber setup, I don't care that it's a daily chart here, you guys. I always say I treat market structure the same, whether it's the 1 minute, the 5 minute, the hourly, the 4 hour, the daily, the weekly. Guys, if this was a 5 minute chart, I would not be taking a long setup up here. That is the last thing that I would be looking to do, right? I would be looking at taking profits on a long if I got in one down here. But I would not be looking to FOMO into a long position at resistance. And I don't care who wants to say that it's market manipulation, it's corruption, they're working against one person, all that sort of nonsense. Guys, it's just, I don't care if you were putting a 1 point whatever billion-dollar position in at this level, or you were putting in a $1,000 position there. The market makers were going to get you either way because we had this perfect, like if this was a 5 minute, you guys, everyone would agree with me, that's a perfect swing fail. We ended up just breaking above resistance a little bit and then coming back down, losing that level, not holding it, but in fact flipping it back into resistance. A perfect retest there. It doesn't matter if you want to call this a swing fail or a Stuber fib setup, right? I was talking about the fact ever since we broke above this 89K level, and since we obviously already had this bearish structure for us, if this was a 5 minute chart, this would just be an average short for me where I would be laddering into a position, something like this. So whether you want to look at this as a Stuber setup or a swing fail setup, both of them are very much in play right now. And I've been saying for a while now that 93K or even 83K is very much a possibility. I did a public stream on Financial Summit the other day, 2 days ago, and someone was trolling me saying that when I said a major drop to 93K was possible, now not even saying we were heading there, saying it's possible, someone was trolling me saying that that's a clickbait title. You guys, that person actually wanted a clickbait title. They wanted me to say that Bitcoin was going to 150K or 200K, and anything other than that is clickbait. Understand that I'm a trader. I'm not a lottery ticket player. Well, that's not true. I have the odd meme coin. But guys, I'm a trader and I'm just looking at what's the best probability when you get to resistance. Everyone would always say, well, yeah, you're supposed to sell a resistance and you're supposed to buy support. But when that time comes, they sure do the exact opposite. And that's what we're seeing right now is, yeah, we could absolutely invalidate this at any time. We do something like this and it's absolutely possible that we carry on to the upside. But as it stands right now, we have this potential bearish setup. We have the swing fail, we have the Stuber fib. And really, that's why I said as well, I still have a third of my short open from up here from that swing fail, is because I took my scalp profits, right? I closed 2/3 of it. I took my small profits on that position, or I'm going to consider them small along the way. And other than that, after hitting my scalp targets, I'm looking at hoping for the swing targets, and my swing targets are not until this level. And that doesn't even necessarily mean anything all that bad, you guys. A lot of people are telling me that, oh, if we break down below 90K, Bitcoin's finished. I don't necessarily think so, right? That's the thing. Everybody's going to get super bearish right into support, just like everyone got super bullish right into resistance. It's human nature. We all know that you're not supposed to do that, but when the time comes, we get scared, and that's exactly what happens. We're scared of missing out here. We're scared our investments are going to zero down here, and that's just very natural, right? So, but looking for these structured setups, and that's exactly why we do back testing. That's why we have certain trade setups, that systematic ones that don't rely on gut feelings. That's why we do this sort of thing as traders. That's why we backtest. A big reason of why I've been so openly bearish at this level is because of this signal right here. This is every one of these signals that I can find on this chart right here. This is every one and how they've played out, just to show how accurate this exact divergence is that I've been warning about for so long. Now, it's not just divergences, and I know this is going to be very familiar for a lot of you. Maybe it's repetitive, whatever. It never hurts to hear something over and over to really drill it home. But yeah, guys, just that very specific overextended divergence that I like to watch for. So what I mean is from overextended, overbought, oversold, depending what side you're on, right down to the I guess I'm going to call it the baseline, the 70 level or the 30 level. But whenever we see those divergences, we generally see very large moves when that happens on the weekly, ranging from 30% corrections is the small ones that we see with this price action. We currently only have pulled back about 9% from the same signal, and understand that we have seen, we had the same signal called the COVID crash. We dumped 68% from this signal, and it was called back here. It was warning us that a big move was coming. Yeah, COVID probably pushed it a little further. I think that would have been just like a 30% correction or something. Actually, that's probably what it did here. Actually, from where it happened, let's go there to where it dropped to. Yeah, about a 40% correction, and COVID gave it a nice little extra push there. Last market cycle topped out with the exact formation that we have in the chart right now. And guys, as a chart guy, not a fundamental guy, I'm not playing favorites with politics. I'm not picking on who's currently in power. Nothing like that. Just looking at this for the chart structure that it is. We had this exact divergence last market cycle, and it did end the cycle. And understand that when we traded up at this level in this swing fail territory, we did trade here for 5 weeks, right? From where we tested it here to where we actually nuked, it was 5 weeks of screwing around right at that level. And people were already telling me that, well, if it was going to dump, we would have dumped already. Guys, we're only on week 2 or week 3 at this point. We could trade sideways for a significantly longer amount of time and then end up dumping. We also could break up to the upside, right? No chart pattern is 100%, but on this chart that I currently have here, so going back to 2019, every time we've seen this on the weekly time frame, it's been a very large move. And that goes for the bullish one as well, right? When we went from overextended bearish to that 70 level, just look at what happened there. We bottomed. Yeah, you could actually even say that it happened back here, and we did go for one more plunge to the downside, but it was basically marking that, we were very close to a bottom, and when we actually got that 70 or that 30 retest, we did actually bottom there for a 620% move to the upside. That's where a lot of people are saying that, this market cycle's just getting started. Guys, the market cycle has already, Bitcoin's done over 600% to the upside already. So yeah, I understand if you waited for the media to start talking about it and for Bitcoin to go all-time highs before getting back into it, expecting a parabolic run again. Understand there's much bigger players in the space, and they tend to tame the market. Look at the stock market versus crypto. Look at every crypto market cycle, how diminishing the returns get. Every cycle is significantly smaller percentage of upside, right? So, it is what it is. I would love to see this get invalidated. I would love to see the market pump above this level. But until that happens, I'm really going to have a hard time being bullish on Bitcoin until this gets invalidated. And that's the thing, right? I was selling some spot at 110. I'm short from 110.2. I was getting very bearish and just cautious at this level, protecting myself, because at this point, if the market did invalidate me and I could buy back into the market and take whatever, a 5% loss on whatever spot that I sold, or here, what would it even be? That would be, approximately a 5 or a 6% loss, I guess, treating it just like losing a leverage position, right? That's the thing, guys. Just because I sold some spot It doesn't mean that, if the market goes to the upside and goes parabolic, Stu missed the whole bull market. No, guys, I've been bullish since about 18K. And, I really have no issues with taking some profits up here and, keeping a lot of it in stables, and I can just buy back in, right? I have a stop limit above 115K that will automatically put me back into the market with some of those positions as soon as that happens. Just treating it like a small loss on a spot position rather than a leverage position. Just treating it like a stop loss, but rather than stopping out a position, I will get back into a position if that happens. Because guys, yeah, okay, I might miss 5% of this parabolic run that everyone's talking about, but a lot of people may end up missing a much larger move to the downside. And again, I'm not saying that this has to be the bear market time or anything like that, but anything is possible. Basically, the way I'm looking at this is when we have this bearish formation here, I'm just going to be bearish until proven otherwise on the medium time frames, right? I'm gonna look at the weekly and it looks very bearish right now. This is my favorite double top pattern to short. Has about an 87% hit rate. So I have no problems getting bearish at this when I see it on the weekly. And a lot of people have a hard time zooming out and actually treating the longer time frame for what it is and think that the move should have happened right now, because as crypto traders, we are extremely degenerate compared to traditional markets, and we hate waiting for things. A lot of people think I'm a degenerate because I trade the 5-minute chart, but I'm still willing to look at structure for what it is on the longer time frames, right? People who think they're a swing trader aren't even looking at the possibility that we could retest support of the swing, right? That would be very natural market behavior. This is a typical Stuber fib setup. So many of you guys now in the Bitcoin chat, for example, even the altcoin chats, all that sort of thing, so many of you point out Stuber fibs on the 5-minute, the 15-minute, stuff like that. Well, on this daily chart, it's the same on the 4-hourly, it's the same as the weekly. If this was any other time frame, I mean, this is clearly our high. Where did we break it? We broke it right here. Where do we pull our fib from? The lowest point between the two. So yeah, I know it's a very large range and it will really fuck with some emotions if it ends up playing out. But that's why my purple box is down here. That's why my green box is down here. A lot of people are going to get very bearish if we end up testing some of those levels that at this point are just a theory. I'm very open to the idea of hitting those targets. I would absolutely love that. But we don't have to, but I'm very much open to that idea. And if we end up getting to those levels, that's where I'll be looking to be a buyer, because again, we're at support in that case. So I'd rather be a buyer. I'd rather be taking profits off shorts and trying to find some sort of a lower time frame entry on some long setups and hoping for the same thing that I did here, right? Just hoping for some sort of a scalp. It'll likely take multiple tries and I'll get stopped out at break even multiple times with part of my positions, but eventually if one runs, that turns into a very nice swing position with a scalp size risk level involved. So that's kind of what I would be looking for if we end up getting down to these levels, but we're going to have to see, right? I was mentioning just the other day that actually, let's go to the 4-hour chart. The MDX Trendmaster indicator printed a sell signal. And I did acknowledge that, one thing to consider with this, and again, a lot of people would get very bearish if we start hitting some of those support levels, but understand that we do actually have a significantly higher sell signal on this indicator right now. And at that point, that leads me to believe that we would get some sort of a higher buy signal as well. Whether it comes in right away and stops the sell-off dead in its tracks and we end up mooning from there, fantastic. I would take that as a huge sign of strength if we print a higher buy signal with this indicator on the 4-hour. However, something that's also very likely is we end up going all the way down here and then printing a higher buy signal, a slightly higher buy. And that would be the most bullish thing that I could think of Bitcoin doing right now. I would be so bullish, at least temporarily, if we end up seeing something like that, you guys. Even if we are starting, I have a hard time saying this. Actually, I love saying it, but I always want to warn because people get triggered by the idea of a bear market even being possible, because I don't know if it is one right now or not. I don't know if we've started the bear market or not, but if we have, even if we're in a bear market, I would still expect some sort of a bounce out of either one of these pockets. I would expect some sort of a reaction. Honestly, what we would probably see is a reaction out of this pocket, some sort of a dead cat bounce, and then everyone getting very bearish down here again and see another bounce from our swing fail level on the bullish side. I think that would be quite likely, honestly. We're going to have to see. Doesn't have to happen. I'm not blindly setting longs down there or anything. I want to see what actually happens. But, you know, even if we end up being in a bear market, I just think it's such an obvious buy level down here, or, you know, looking for long entries rather than late shorts and that sort of thing. And you know what's going to happen at that point? If we do something like this and we get a nice bounce from a level like this, everyone is going to be screaming, haha, that was a bear trap. You know, we're going back to all-time highs. Now is where our parabolic altcoins cycle season begins, whatever. Just because we'll see some green price action, very aggressive for a few hours. And honestly, in my opinion, it's just because this is a very obvious buy level. So just understand that those emotions will be around the corner if we end up targeting some of these levels. And if you surround yourself with that feel good echo chamber on, you know, Twitter and other social media platforms like this, yeah, people are going to get very bullish if we see a bounce from those levels. But just remember, you heard it here, that if we bounce anywhere basically from 83K down to 78K, that's just a very typical Stuber fib setup, just a typical market reaction to test a support level, you know, to test. Basically, the way I look at it is if we get into this 786, 886 fib pocket, the market is going to test to try and form some sort of a higher low, right? We won't know if it's actually a higher low because it's not confirmed until we actually break a higher high. But the market would love to test that level at least to try and get a bounce there. And whether we, you know, maybe we hit the first target and then nuke straight back down like that, or, you know, maybe we just end up going down here first before getting a bounce. But I think it's quite likely that we would see some sort of activity from the bulls if we get down to those levels. But again, guys, I know this is way in advance. I know that we are, you know, literally tens of thousands of dollars away from those levels. But just understand that the bears typically move faster than the bulls. And this was a pretty aggressive uptrend. So if we are breaking that now, and I have reasons to believe that we have, you know, we could end up seeing a plunge to the downside relatively quick. The monthly chart as well, guys, as it stands right now, obviously this month just started, right? We have basically, well, over 3 weeks to go with this. Well, 25 days we have until this candle closes. But so far on the monthly, we have a swing fail, right? This can obviously change in the next 25 days, but so far we have a swing fail there. And as well, again, going to the MDX Wavemaster indicator, beautiful momentum indicator, you know, there's not a ton of examples here because it doesn't have all that much data to pull from. But every time we've seen one of these overextended crosses, we've seen a big shift. And although we're getting close to, we actually just the other day, we were sitting above this. It was crossing bullish, but now it's, like I said, the candle hasn't closed. It has 25 days to go, so this could very easily get rejected yet. So yeah, there's a lot of red flags, but you guys who have been in my streams recently, you know my thoughts. I've been very vocal about all this for quite some time. I've actually been feeling more bullish on altcoins just because, you know, Bitcoin is actually at macro resistance, right? That whole Stuber fib, swing fail, whatever, it made it to macro resistance. Whereas altcoins like Ethereum, Solana, all those coins, you know, they aren't even close yet. So I am open to the possibility that we see altcoins play catch up at some point. Kind of depends though, because I mean, so much, the altcoin market is so diluted. I know everyone says that, though, this cycle is going to be different. It's going to be a meme coin super cycle and all this sort of stuff. Guys, just understand how, I guess, yeah, just how much liquidity got sucked into a few projects, or people just losing money. Like, let's face it, generally speaking, bull markets go parabolic when big money has their bags and basically the sell pressure wears off. It's not even that the buying pressure needs to necessarily turn into more volume, just that if there's not as much selling volume, the price is going to get pushed higher. So as long as there's not many selling, even retail is able to push the market parabolic at that point. And at this point, so much of new retail into the crypto space went straight into meme coins only and basically lost everything through the last year or two. It's pretty hard to be pushing Bitcoin and the higher caps higher when retail has done that kind of thing, right? So I understand that every market cycle feels like this cycle is going to be different because there's bigger players in the space, there's more adoption across the world, etc. But understand that every market cycle has that. Every market cycle has significantly bigger players. Every market cycle feels different. But honestly, I think if anything, with this market cycle being different, I think the difference is there's there's a possibility that there's not a crazy altcoin cycle. I am in a little bit of a short on Ethereum. I never even ended up sharing this in my Telegram. I was honestly looking for a quick scalp, and I was actually just trying to play a bit of a down move to play a long position, but then I ended up seeing what was happening on Twitter, and that was one of those cases where I already took the short based on this indicator. Like I said, I mentioned many times, the lower sell signals, the lower buy signals. I ended up catching a late short down here with a nice tight stop loss, and it ended up just dropping off a cliff. And, when seeing Twitter and stuff and seeing how emotional everything is right now, I would rather not try and catch the dagger on this one, and I'm just going to leave a chunk of this short running as well. Even though I was more bullish on Ethereum, I actually had some longs on Ethereum this morning, and yesterday I was playing longs. Actually, the last few days I've been mostly playing longs on Ethereum, but today things may have changed a little bit, so I don't want to rush into any new longs on anything. I even sold a bunch of my meme coins. I sold a lot of stuff today, just because I think that, even if altcoins are going to go for a finale run, I think there's a good chance that a lot of things get spooked first before that happens. And if the market can stabilize, that's when altcoins can kind of have their run. So as it stands right now, I'm much more interested in holding my shorts open for now, just because I think there's plenty of room to go to the downside, and that doesn't include any fundamental turbulence. That's just straight up the price action I've been warning about basically ever since we broke 89K, right? Because as soon as we ended up breaking this lower high, which was on the micro trend, right? Because this was our high, or our low rather, and this was our lower low, highest point between the two, that was our lower high on the micro trend. When we broke that, then I start looking for the resistance of the actual swing, right? This would have been my scalp resistance here. We broke it. So therefore, I'm looking for the swing resistance, and that's anywhere from the 786 up to the 115. I know it's a big pocket. It's a very large time frame pattern. I mean, this has been forming for like 5 months now. So yes, it's a very large pocket, but it's all resistance, right? And there's a lot of people, I'd mentioned many times that FOMO was really going to start when we hit the 786, and that's exactly what we saw on Twitter. Getting above all-time highs, then it got even more ridiculous, and we instantly got a swing fail. Well, not instantly, but within a day or two, we ended up getting a very large swing fail here. So we're going to have to see what happens from here. But so far, guys, I mean, it just looks to me like we could see significantly further downside. And at that point, like I said, even if Bitcoin drops to 93K, or I mean, the target's actually closer to 92, but I like to front run my fibs a little bit with my targets. So even if we drop to 93, guys, understand that there's not, in my opinion, there's not even anything bearish about that. That's just typical structure. That's typical price action after, breaking the highs. It's very natural to get a retest of support of the range to see if the market actually wants to, provide that support. If there's still buyers at this level showing strength, then yeah, the market can continue higher. But as it stands, I mean, support hasn't been tested since we ended up breaking all-time highs again, right? So I think that, the market would be in a significantly better place if it could prove that support was going to hold down here, rather than just going straight parabolic. I think the most healthy thing we could do is actually pull back significantly. I want to bring up What else was I going to bring up? Auto charting tools. Let's check that. See, so we did have a higher low printed there with this indicator, and we dropped that. So at that point, I would be considering, hey, we have a lower low here now. So this would be my lower high on the micro trend, right? Low, lower low, lower high. So if you wanted to play the micro trend, I mean, you could start looking for some sort of a fib pullback. If the market gets a nice reaction, we could still come back up to these levels. But I mean, we'll have to see what the shorter time frames are doing, obviously. ALGO Master. So this fib from the ALGO Master actually got invalidated. It never was respected because since we set the bottom here, we never did bounce even close to the 786. And since we broke the bottom here, that range is actually broken. So that's not even valid anymore. Liquidations. I mentioned this a couple days ago. We did drop the liquidation band indicator. So that's just more resistance lining up there as well with the Trendmaster resistance, right? So a few things lining up there. As far as liquidation levels, I mean, I see them both ways, right? There is still a lot of liquidity above us because of late shorts coming into the market today. But we do still have some liquidity to the downside. So kind of mixed signals there. Yeah, basically below the weekly open, the daily open, the June, the February, the December would be kind of the next. Where is that actually? That is down around 96.5. But I don't know how much credit I want to give that. I don't trade monthly levels as much as a lot of people in here. But I really think at this point that it makes a lot of sense that we would come down and at least test the first Stuber fib target, right? That's the thing, guys. This 93K target that, you know, I was blamed for using clickbait by even talking about that target. Understand, that's only my first target. Okay, guys? It's not like that's some catastrophic move right there. That's just my first scalp target as far as this bearish Stuber goes. I don't like calling it a scalp because obviously on a 4-hour time frame it takes a long time to play out. But that is just playing the range first, looking for those TPs. And from there, if it's bear market on, then we are going significantly lower. But like I said, I think it makes a lot of sense. Even if we are bearish and come down to these levels, I think we get it's just an obvious buy level to me. But as it stands right now, I'm having a very hard time being bullish as well. This almost just looks like I know a lot of people like Head and Shoulders. Obviously looks like we broke some sort of a neckline there. So yeah, I mean, do we want to take a measured move there? I know not everybody likes those, but we'd be looking at something. Well, that's interesting actually. If we take it from the 786, it lines up pretty close with that 93K target. But if you take it from where it broke out, I mean, you're looking more for 94-ish. But interesting that pattern kind of lines up with that. Not everybody likes trading patterns, but I know a lot of people do point out Head and Shoulders a lot, and that just looks like a fairly obvious one to me. So to see that coming in at macro resistance, again, it's just a big red flag. That's a topping signal, right? A Head and Shoulders pattern is generally considered a top signal. Just like an inverse Head and Shoulders would be a bottom signal, right? So, yeah, a lot of things lining up with that theory there. Bitcoin, as far as the 5-minute Trendmaster, well, this is just an ugly, ugly downtrend here. That wasn't even a lower sell signal there, but that sell signal is just holding its ground. Bitcoin cannot break above it. So, yeah, Bitcoin needs to break above, I'd say, 101.8. Even call it 102 to have any hopes of some sort of a reversal. And if that happens, obviously we would end up getting a higher buy signal, and I would be looking for a lower sell. So I'd be pulling from where we took our pivot before the sell signal here. If we get some sort of a bounce, I would be comfortable pulling a fib, something like that at this point. Obviously, as the chart structure changes, so would that fib. But as it currently looks right now, if we get a bounce, I would be interested in looking for shorts starting at this 786. That would be around 104.6. I would start to become a little bit cautious again. But even right now, as far as the scalping downtrend, I mean, we obviously have resistance right where we are with the Trendmaster indicator. Liquidations. I mean, we have grabbed so much of the liquidations to the downside. So again, it would make sense to see some sort of a bounce eventually. That's some pretty aggressive selling to the downside there. What else? Oh, look at that. So the ALGO Master, the auto Stuber fibs are lining up perfectly with mine, right? So that's beautiful confluence to have. I love talking about that in my streams quite often. Is I like to see that as a second opinion that, hey, this indicator agrees with my fib pull here absolutely perfectly, right? So love to see that. Again, just pointing out that it's very possible we end up seeing a little bit of a bounce before a further rejection. Ethereum still facing this downtrend. Like I said, still lower sell signals, lower buy signals. This trend obviously holding the price down for now. Not looking so good for Ethereum right now. What is the 4-hour looking at? One thing I will say, I do see a potential Stuber fib right where we are right now, because yeah, we could say this is our high. This high wasn't higher, but this one was. So there's our higher high. Our lowest point between the two is right here. So technically, I could pull a fib something like this, and notice where we're trading right now. I'm not brave enough to take that long right now. I feel like there's way too much uncertainty, and I know I'm a charts guy. I know I try to ignore fundamentals, but again, just bringing the charts back into it on the longer time frames, I have bigger concerns than just what's going on with the fundamentals. That's just adding fuel to the fire. So, I'd have a hard time pulling the trigger on this. I'm tempted to take some sort of a hedge long, but even that, I'm just not brave enough at this point. To me, this looks like a very obvious BART pattern, to be honest. We have our, big leg up, Bart's sweet hairline. I'm jealous because I don't have much of one, and then straight back down. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. Obviously doesn't have to happen, but does it make sense in the charts? If we end up seeing some sort of a big pullback, let's just go from where we did bottom for Ethereum so far. That's my purple box here, right? That wouldn't even necessarily be bearish. That's, again, just retesting support after breaking a downtrend. So I think it would be very healthy price action. And I will be looking to be a buyer at these levels. If I can find something on a lower time frame with a tighter invalidation, I will absolutely be looking for long opportunities down there again. Let me catch up with the chat a little bit. Sorry, I've been ranting for quite some time now. And first of all, I guess, hopefully you guys have been able to hear me this whole time. I think so. Hopefully this chat room has fixed our issues here. Oh yeah, volume was insane on shitcoins. Some good aping shitcoins and flipping them. Yeah, I could see that being a thing. Like I said, I actually sold a bunch of my shitcoins today. Even some that had some very nice charts that I was talking about in the micro gems, for example. I still held on to a bunch, and I'm planning to buy the dip on some of them. But I just wanted to see how this all kind of blows over in the next few days. Yeah, exactly. Plumbus gets it. Better play it safe, Stu. Fully agree. Smarter to grab a run when it's clear that it is happening than timing it and losing money after so much upside. That's the thing, right? Can always buy back a few percent higher. Just reading some of the chat. You guys are great. Yeah, how are you guys all feeling about the market, by the way? Do you guys think that, maybe it is possible we start a bigger bearish move or even a bear market? Or do you think that this is all going to blow over by tomorrow kind of a thing? Like, guys, I honestly have no idea. It really depends. Those guys, I'm sure, have a lot of dirt on each other. There's been so many deals. There's been so many things happening in the economy, and other things as well. So I don't know. It's hard to say. You know, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty moving forward once again, like it has been for this whole year so far. Nothing but basically since January 20th, there's been nothing but uncertainties. There's been, you know, tariff threats, tariff pullbacks, tariff escalations, tariffs off. You know, there's been so much of that uncertainty, and now you're throwing that even the best friends doing it all can't even keep their own shit together. Like there's so much going on, guys. Oh, nice. Literally tossed some downside stuff 2 days ago. Been paying off massively. Absolutely, man. I couldn't agree more. It's a very comfortable position to be in. And honestly, again, it was nothing but chart action, right? I didn't predict that this was going to happen other than, hey guys, we're at resistance. Time to be cautious. Time to be a seller rather than a buyer. That's basically all it comes down to. 420k by end of the week. If we do that, I'll have a 420k party in my shack. uh, yeah, Ethereum's still having a heck of a time. Yeah, guys. Sorry, I know this episode was this stream here was even rantier than normal. I know normally I really don't like to get into politics and stuff too much, but today was just pretty entertaining if you ask me. So, and again, obviously it's shaking up the markets a little bit, but it's so funny. You're going to see so many people that will be like, "Oh, the only reason you were right is because this happened." You know, those same people, they always need a reason why the price action happens, and they'll never be ahead of the price action with that attitude because they're always looking at why it happened rather than preparing for something that could happen, like a perfect fucking swing fail setup. Right? So, yeah, this had nothing to do with fundamentals or getting lucky. Well, I mean, luck is always a part of it, I suppose, but this was just sticking to a plan that I made tens of thousands of dollars lower. And yeah, I know this whole way up I was warning, you know, that hey, there's a bigger correction looming. It's very possible. I'm still bearish. That doesn't mean shorting the entire way, right? That just means that hey, when we get back to resistance, when we get to macro resistance, look the fuck out. It's basically what I've been getting at since the start of, well, I guess that would be, yeah, the start of May for sure. Full disclosure, yeah, I was wrong down here when I thought the downtrend was going to continue there. That's fine. I would still always rather be cautiously bearish at resistance rather than FOMOing into it. If you got into a swing fail long down here, then yeah, great, right? But I wasn't about to take some longs up here. I was looking at being a seller up here as well. But when that gets invalidated, then okay, well, next resistance level doesn't start till the 786 up here. So see what happens there. And yeah, we went a little higher, but again, this is just another one of many of our favorite trade setups, right? So, oh, did I skip you, Adrian? More like the D pattern. Yeah, there's that as well. And yes, Mr. Clickbait Trader StewTube here will be kind and take a look at Hype because Hype is also one that I'm interested in. That is the one altcoin I will look at quickly. Other than that, I mean, I think the whole market is in a level of uncertainty right now. So I don't want to look at a ton of altcoins because I think they're all just in a scary place right now. Currently have our volume delta point of control just above the price. We do have this buy signal. We still have support from this blue line here. We may end up finding support here and breaking above that. If we break above this, then yeah, hopefully we can flip that point of control into support. We weren't able to back here, so we'll have to see. We obviously have lower trending buy signals. So this is the 5-minute, mind you. But obviously have lower buy signal, lower buy signal, lower buy signal, lower sell signal, lower sell signal. I'm going to assume eventually another lower sell signal comes in. And the only reason I'm assuming that is just because the trend is your friend until the end, right? So at this point, even if we do bounce a little bit higher, where did we pivot from with the sell signal? That would be back here. So I would be interested in pulling a fib, something like that. So I wouldn't necessarily short right now unless if another sell signal comes up, yeah, maybe you can get into a nice quick scalp. But I would rather see us climb a little bit higher and get back into this fib pocket up here. What is... Oh, I don't have the same ALGO master settings on here, so I'm just going to not even look for those at this point. I will take a... I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Let's take a look at the 4 hour. We still have this higher buy signal on the 4 hour. It's really struggling to hold on to the price. But check this out. Interesting. I don't actually consider this... Well... We got very close to the 786 there. That's not a perfect super fib because I would have liked this high to go above, like get a high and a higher high before pulling it. Since this wasn't actually a higher high, I mean, it's not technically a super fib setup, still a 786 support, which could hold. But again, there's just a level of added risk there. As far as the structure goes, actually, I think there's a bearish one there. I would actually say, yeah, I don't know why I was looking at that. If we check out this, notice that here's where we had our high. Here's our higher high. Lowest point between the two here. This was broken. At that point, that's where we look for our bearish super fib, right? And look where we got rejected, and look where we have so far found support. That was absolutely perfect. I'm very upset that I never caught that one because that is just a textbook super fib right there. Adrian, you probably caught it. But that is just absolute textbook there. Perfect structure break. Perfect pullback to the 786. Perfect 214 test. Brilliant. So at this point, yeah, it still has the bearish structure, but obviously you'd be shorting into support at this point if you were looking for a short, unless you're looking for a shorter time frame. But yeah, that move has already played out, so... It's a little riskier at this point. You got it to the T. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know we have a very similar trade style, so I figured you probably caught that because you watch hype a lot closer than I do. Beautiful. What's the trend? Oh, yeah, like I said, let's check out the 1 hour. What is the 1 hour up to? So... Here's another thing, guys, right? Just looking at the microstructure on the chart. So this is why I love microstructure, but even here, so we have a high. Notice we have a slightly higher high here. That would confirm this as our higher low. But then we actually set another higher high, and that means this is the higher low, right? Because between our high here and our higher high, higher low. And just notice where we end up getting our rejection. Right? We flipped this support, even though that's such a micro level. Look how well it was respected here, you guys. So I know that a lot of people think that I microanalyze things, and that's ridiculous, but look how well that structure actually holds up for how insignificant it looks. And that's why market structure can often look very similar, but be very different, is because of those very small differences. And getting an edge on that can really help you get into better scalp positions and just, you know, understanding why the market's changing direction and stuff like that. Yeah, obviously sometimes that's not going to play out, but it's such a nice tight invalidation, right? I mean, what's played out so far? If you just look at, you know, leaving a little wiggle room there to where we ended up getting to, I mean, that's almost a 4-to-1. That's a 3-point, call it 3.69. Yeah. There we go. A 1 to 3.69 risk reward. So, and honestly, like, that's not how I would have just measured that, assuming it was going to go that low. But again, it's just obviously there was a big move to the downside considering the amount of risk to the upside there. Yeah. What is Trendmaster? Well, that's not a well, it's a beautiful thing if you're in a short like Adrian here. We got a sell and obviously a lower sell signal here on the Trendmaster. So as long as the price doesn't break above, I guess this would be where the trend shifted for that sell signal there. I'm going to make it blue so it matches. But yeah, obviously that's quite a ways away. Like I said, you'd be shorting late at this point into possible support. But as long as the price is in a downtrend, I wouldn't really expect it to get above this level here. And right now, I mean, as far as looking for a tight short setup, I mean, technically we're very close to the resistance of that indicator. So, I mean, even laddering in something like that with a stop loss up here, just to try and keep things tight with just based off this indicator here. You know, there's a potential setup there. It's a 1 hour, so be careful with leverage and stuff. I know I generally use higher leverage and play the shorter time frames, but to each their own, obviously. Yeah, there's no such thing as scary, just big and juicy opportunities. I agree. I just like saying scary. Because you know what? A lot of people are scared about it. But if you are a trader who understands market structure, you gladly welcome that volatility. I would love to see the market get more volatile. Today was a fun day. Very profitable today, so I love it. And from the looks of it, it may get more profitable. Obviously, I never sold all my spot bags, so the spot bags that I have, absolutely they're taking a shit kicking, you guys. I don't want to pretend it's not happening to me too, but understand that I'm still excited for it because I understand trading and I can, you know, I can hedge against my portfolio by trading, right? So I treat my investments and my trading very differently. But yeah, like I said, I did sell some of my spot, but not all. So if we hit my targets, damn rights those wallets are going to take an ass kicking. And I'm here for it. Yeah, retail long back at 59% or so. Yeah, we haven't seen that in a while. It was kind of down around, what, 30%, even lower for a while. So again, market started getting cocky, getting very antsy to catch that bounce. That's all it took was seeing a little bit of a bounce here. And again, people were screaming that the bottom was in. They always do. If the market sees 2 hours of green candles, it is full on euphoria. Like, that's the state of the emotions in this market because everyone thinks that, you know, we're entitled to some parabolic run for some reason. Yeah, Plumbus, I agree. And now is where it's going to get fun then, since you guys here with me right now are brave. We're all brave-hearted traders, right? We can handle some bear porn here before bed. If I'm right about this bear market, you guys, I think a lot of you guys know where I'm going with my targets, but it's around 35K. I know a lot of people tell me all the time, almost every day I tell somebody that I think we're heading there eventually. And people get very upset by that idea. And it does not have to happen. Once again, guys, this is just if we go there, I know I'll be a buyer. I don't know if I will, but I just know what the market structure has done, you know, what it does on every other time frame, and what I would expect it to do on a weekly time frame, just the same. It might look a little funny right now. That's just because this is obviously the logarithmic chart. And I know a lot of you guys have seen this already. That's ridiculous with the 115. Don't even entertain the 115 on the macro pulls. That would be serious issues. But previous market cycles, you guys, I mean, even COVID. Look, COVID respected the frickin' Stuber fib pocket right there. And then again, even the full market cycle, look where we bottomed, right below the 786 there. Let's go to the market cycle before this. Go to the market bottom, to the top. Where did we bottom? Right in the middle of that fib pocket. And where did we go the very first market cycle? Pull from the bottom to the top, and oh my, look at that, we went right to the 886 pretty much. So yes, this cycle could be different, but understand that every one of these market cycles had significantly bigger players and exponentially more money getting into the market, and it felt different every single time. And understand that every single market cycle has respected the Stuber fibs on a macro time frame, right? So if that's going to happen again, then that target is unfortunately or fortunately down around 37K, down to about 26, 27K. I think it's likely that we wouldn't go past the 786 because, I mean, every cycle's been getting slightly less volatile, but so far we've always got down to that pocket. And any trade I look at on shorter time frames, you guys know I don't look for entries until at least that pocket. So if it's going to be a full market cycle, I feel the same way about that. Now, to be fully clear, if we end up pumping and we go to 200K, that changes, right? At that point, that fib pocket pulls up with the price, right? I'm just saying that if this is where the market actually tops in approximately a year's time, I would expect us to be somewhere down below, somewhere around 40K. But we're obviously going to have to see what happens. That's obviously so far in the future. We don't need to worry about that yet. But if we start taking out some of these important levels, I will be setting a crazy amount of limit buys down at those levels. So that's kind of my plan. Yeah, so guys, tossing out a random number, 32,584. Interesting. Should we mark that? No, just kidding. I don't want to clutter up this chart with any more. There's already enough lines on here. But yeah, I agree that it could be somewhere in that area, honestly. And that triggers so many people when you even talk about it as a possibility, because the people who think they're bullish will totally leave the space when that happens, whereas people who are actually bullish and only bullish because we're willing to accept bearish price action and still be okay being buyers and believing in the investment and actually being bullish, we welcome that kind of opportunity. I don't know if it's going to happen, but if it does, I'm going to be thrilled. I want to play a little game. I'm going to say 37,420 and 69 cents. What did I say? 35? Let's go 36. Boom. Someone screenshot that. But again, that's only if we top right now, right? If we climb higher, that changes. But we include wicks or candle bodies only. Wicks count, except for those scam ones where like MEXC hit $500 or whatever the other day. Those ones don't count. But any like real price action wick that most exchanges can kind of be around the same levels. We have to have some sort of an average going on there. I'm going to use the BloFin chart. Or that's technically the bit stamp. Yeah, whatever. I'm going to use BloFin. I don't think it matters. If we guess the price on any exchange, I think that's worth celebrating. Yeah, I guess the index chart would be a good middle ground. But if we get anywhere close to the target, I'm just going to be impressed. All right. Anyways, legends, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. hopefully you found this stream useful. Hopefully you found it entertaining, if nothing else. Hopefully I said something at some point that helps you out in your journey in some way. For those of you watching this on my YouTube channel a little later, if you want access to the MDX algo indicators, my favorite indicators that I'm always bringing up on my streams here, there's a 10% discount link in the description down below. I've also got a private Telegram channel where I share some ideas, potential scalp setups, Stuber fib levels, just my general thoughts on the market in general. Kind of a place for me to keep all my thoughts together. It's completely free for people who trade on BloFin using my sign up link and follow the steps in the description below. But with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.